судные дни.
Правоохранительные органы не для народа работают.
Defendants retract their previous confessions since they have been obtained through torture.
Они во время допросов, то есть одевали целлофановый пакет ей на голову.
Баба Вера и Еламан.
The last residents of Zhezdy village.
Вот третий подъезд, вот третий этаж, где я прожила здесь.
The pressing issue, the fate of single industry cities.
Грубо говоря, здесь немножко потеряна цивилизация.
Называть должен смотреть, как жена-то живет.
Доживем до понедельника.
Школа – это коррупция, гонение.
Boarding school dissent. Teachers oppose the corrupted leadership.
Директором.
Это мясо собаки даже кушать не станут, страшно вонючее. Этим мясом они 20 дней детей кормили.
This is Vlast KZ on KplusTV. We review all the accents, trends and personalities of the past week. I'm Asylbek Abdulov. Good day. Last week, blood was shed again in Kazakhstan for the first time after the Zhanaozen events. An armed assault on journalist Lukman Akhmedyarov from Uralsk resulted in 8 stab and 2 gunshot wounds from a traumatic weapon. This is more proof of a reactionary nature of the current political regime, the regime that cannot be called anything but bloody.
Мне на телефоне вот звонок Лукпану, это был 22-29, я сейчас посмотрела. Я услышала его голос, он говорит: Тамара Левкалина, меня стреляли. И я просто ушам не могла поверить. И он тут же отключился. И пока я бегал, там вещи там набрасывал на себя, через пару минут какой-то мужик позвонил, мужской, и говорит: приезжайте, приезжайте, он здесь лежит.
Ужас, вот говорят. Говори, что сделали, а? Туда не надо заходить. Не надо болтаться.
Жизненно важные органы, говорит, не затронуты. Как-то вот таким вот образом. Но, судя по характеру, нож очень глубоко проникал. Потому что повреждена плевра, брюшина, характер ран такой серьезный. Они сказали, что состояние стабильно тяжелое. Они говорят, мы сделали все, что могли. Я думаю, что все будет все хорошо.
После трехчасовой операции состояние Лукмана.
After 3-hour-long surgery, the condition of Lukman Akhmedyarov was stable but critical. 2 gunshot wounds and 8 stabs inflicted to Lukman at first were cautiously labeled hooliganism, but were eventually changed to attempted murder. The case is under control of the MIA, but police is not even able to get on the trail of their assailants.
Но пока полицейским не удается даже выйти на след нападавших неизвестных людей.
2 days prior to the assassination attempt, members of the National Security Committee made an unexpected visit to the wife of Lukman and demanded him to stop dealing with politics, writing articles for the newspaper, and warned that if Lukman will not stop participating in dissent rallies, he will end up in trouble. Lukman Akhmedyarov is a member of the dissent movement, and this explains a lot. On March 24, he was one of the organizers of the protest rally in Uralsk, which was sanctioned by the local authorities. Almaty and other cities gave no permission for the dissenters, who were later detained for 15 days and fined. Another protest was planned for April 28, and the hunt for activists evidently started with Lukman. The president's administration is afraid of a triumphant rally of dissenters around the country, so it stepped up the intimidation campaign.
Lukman
Akhmedyarov posted on his Facebook page, quote, "We are different, but if today we are not going to do anything, and if Nazarbayev stays in power, tomorrow we will have nothing to justify our existence. You cannot be free just a little. When our politicians say that Kazakhstan has become freer, it just seems that the chain holding us has become a bit longer." End quote.
Журналистское сообщество обратилось с открытым письмом к президенту, но, как заметила Тамара Ислямова, главный редактор «Уральской недели»,
The journalist community have appealed with an open letter to the president, but as was noted by Tamara Islamova, editor-in-chief of Uralskaya Nedelya, there is no point in searching for justice from the authorities after the events in Zhanaozen, and now after this assassination attempt. Islamova said it is despicable to continue this false game, and it's time to ask the population to stop fearing and start speaking up on important issues without despair and anger. Tamara Islamova worked with Ahmedyarov for many years on the protection of freedom of speech in Uralsk.
Это слова журналиста Тамары Ислямовой, бок о бок с Лукпаном, многие годы отстаивающий в Уральске право на профессию и свободу слова.
Instead of personality cult of the leader of the nation, the country needs the cult of real personalities. And instead of the leader of the nation concept, the country needs real leaders. I believe there are people like that around, the dissenters, both dead and still living. Thank you for fighting. Lukpan. The national security agent named Yerjan told me you are in deep trouble. He threatened me, saying he knows I have a 14-year-old daughter. During interrogation, a man standing behind me pushed my back with a machine gun. Someone amongst present said, knock her down. They accused me for setting Youths and Alliance Bank building on fire because I had a credit there. This audio record gave a new twist in the case of the Zhanaozen riot. During the trial, defendant Roza Tuletaeva made a sensational statement about harassment by the pre-trial detention center officers during interrogation. Officers named Ruslan, Nurjan or Yerjan tortured her during interrogation, placing a plastic bag over her head. The woman passed out several times and they pulled her hair in order to bring her senses back, which resulted her losing her hair in chunks after the interrogation. Out of embarrassment, the harassed woman could not speak openly about some of the shocking details. I wasn't allowed a lawyer. I have my family members and acquaintances in the courtroom, so I will refrain from telling all the details because I am ashamed. Tuletaeva was actively involved in the 7-month-long rally as oilfield workers' rights activist. She is put on a trial as one of the suspects responsible for organizing the mass disorders in Zhanaozen. The woman is charged with Article 241, Section 2. Fearless Rosa, this is how co-workers would refer to the activist. The local authorities and police had many times threatened the ex-employee of the Auzenmunaygas company. Due to her active public position, her eldest daughter was detained for several days in August last year. My daughter is detained here, they wouldn't even let me see her. It was then just a tactic to threaten Rosa. This time, however, she experienced the horror of detention to the fullest extent. Yet some other testimonies similar to that of Tuletaeva about tortures during investigation appeared one after another. Tanat Tarkaliyev, who had earlier testified against defendants Talgat Saktaganov, Roza Tuletaeva, Maksat Ismagambetov and others, withdrew his claims. Kaliyev said he was forced to testify after being threatened that his son will be also arrested and tortured. Family members of the defendant told reporters the details of the torture. Tanatar was hanged upside down, naked and beaten on his head. Now the defendant's attorney had filed a petition to conduct a handwriting examination. In the meantime, the presiding judge keeps ignoring controversial statements about tortures and sexual offenses, not taking any action to thoroughly examine these circumstances. Attorney and human rights activists are outraged by this, saying this makes it obvious how unfair the process is going. The judge had not treated properly the defendant's claims about some serious violations related to tortures and assaults during the investigation. The judge is more inclined towards the prosecution and obviously supports it. Well, the trial is not over yet, we'll see.
посмотрим. Судебное следствие не закончилось.
The trial of the criminal case involving police officers suppressing the genocide and disorders will start on April 25 and 27. Only 6 law enforcement representatives are charged with abusing their power and professional duties. In case if their fault will be proven, they may be sentenced up to 10 years of imprisonment and confiscation of property. In the meantime, their colleagues continue testifying in the victim's capacity. Why weren't you wearing the uniform, and if you were dressed like a civilian, why would you carry the gun with you? I was scared and held the gun just in case of self-defense. If no one had attacked you, why did you open fire? I got scared, that's why. I did shoot 4 times in a row out of fear. As the process went on, it became known that other police officer Ulukbek Multikov, the Mangistau Regional DIA Public Security Department head, acting in the case as a victim, was the one to give the order to shoot to kill. Wasn't it you who made the order to shoot to kill? No, I never said that. Just look at me. Don't you recognize me? It was me who went ahead of the crowd shouting, "Do not shoot at people," by waving hands. These questions were addressed to Multikov by a defendant. Several others had recognized the officer as the one giving the order. In some of the photos posted in social networks, Multikov is seen in the uniform and holding a firearm. Ironically, in this case, he is represented as a victim, following other testimonies of some of the defendants. I am most outraged by the fact that we who never engaged in killing people are behind bars, while those whose hands are blood-stained are sitting on the other side. They even dare to testify against us. Multikov was at the elite. I personally heard him saying, "Open fire upon my order." It appears that Ulukbek Multikov during the disorders passed by the seriously injured citizen and did not aid him personally nor ordered to do so to his subordinates as a commander of the police squad. While the main charges are made against the oil field workers, the key question of who ordered to open fire at civilians remains unanswered. Right after the tragedy, the Internal Affairs Minister General Kasimov stated that police officers opened fire at their own initiative. Independent observers attending the trial of the genocide disorders demand to suspend the case against the oil field workers due to the newly emerged details. The information was extorted from the defendants through tortures, and there were countless procedural and number of other violations made during the hearings. Even the judge violated many procedural regulations himself. It appears that this is done on purpose, that the authorities could control the process and make necessary corrections if needed. However, the media still managed to publicize many testimonies of defendants.
Defendant Sarabayev had in particular claimed the following:
"He had beaten me up just for not greeting him."
Aminov further added,
"I got beaten up only because I'm a brother of Akhjanat Aminov. Then in the detention center I was beaten up again after being accused of consuming alcohol and drugs. I was crying and begging him to stop, but he wouldn't."
Kuyshabayev shouted out of his seat,
"He threatened me, saying he would rape my sister's wife and even me. He insulted me verbally because of my orphan background."
Abdrakhmanov said he was beaten with a pistol in the head. Defendant Shamov:
"Adilov beat me up as soon as he took me out of the car and then did so in the detention center." Similar accusations were also voiced against Danyar Adilov, a senior investigative officer from the Organized Crime Combating Department of the local DIA. The Genocide 2012 committee members call all fellow citizens nationwide to support the initiative on stopping the trial over the oil field workers. Stay with us, we'll have more in the second part of the program.
Баба Вера и Еламан.
Мама!
Последние жители поселка ЖСД.
Вот 3-й подъезд, вот 3-й этаж, где я прожила здесь.
The pressing issue, the fate of single industry cities.
Грубо говоря, здесь немножко потеряна цивилизация.
Называть должен смотреть, как жена-то живет.
Доживем до понедельника.
В школах это коррупция, гонение.
Boarding school dissent. Teachers oppose the corrupted leadership.
Это мясо собаки даже кушать не станут, страшно вонючее. Этим мясом они 20 дней детей кормили.
На эти темы
Vlast KZ will return in a couple of minutes.
Vlast KZ.
Главные события в Казахстане. Достоверные факты. Эксклюзивные комментарии. Читайте в Казахстане информационно-аналитический портал «Республика». Чтобы обойти блокировки, воспользуйтесь доменом respublicas.info. Вы окажетесь на так называемом прокси-портале. Специально разработанные канадскими специалистами по интернет-технологиям, прокси-порталы помогают пользователям получать информацию в тех странах, где блокируют интернет-ресурсы. В Китае, Иране, в Казахстане. Вы принимаете условия использования системы и попадаете на страницу информационно-аналитического портала «Республика». Материалы интернет-портала также доступны пользователям всемирной сети Facebook. facebook.com/respublica.kaz. Если вы хотите поделиться информацией, вам есть что рассказать, звоните в редакцию «Республики». Наши телефоны в Казахстане +7 727 273 92 95, в Москве +7 495 621 87 03.
Новости Казахстана на казахском языке смотрите в 21:00 и далее каждый нечетный час. Новости Казахстана на русском языке в 22:00 и далее каждый четный час. Новости Казахстана на английском языке смотрите в 16:30, 17:30, 18:30 и 19:30 со вторника по субботу. Время Астаны. Изготовление и размещение рекламы на канале KplusTV.
The journals and events urged the government to look into the issue of single industry cities referred to as monotowns during the Soviet Union. In total, there are 27 of them in Kazakhstan, even though this number is up for dispute. These settlements are inhabited by 1.5 million people, which makes up 16% of the total population of the country. The majority of those towns are located in Karaganda, East Kazakhstan and Kostanay regions. In the Soviet Union, the portion of the town-forming enterprises with a focus on a single industry reached up to 40%. The still existing monotowns are the legacy of the past industrialization. The city-forming enterprises that fail to meet the new realities, as a rule, are rudiments in the current world.
Beautiful houses were all around this place, but now only ruins remain. Svetlana Kobzenko cannot get used to the view from her window. She moved to Zhanatas with her husband in 1974 and immediately got a job at a local enrichment plant. 50 years ago, almost 100,000 residents of Zhanatas were providing very rare mineral, phosphorite, to the entire Soviet Union. The plant was supplying the mineral on a daily basis. The Moscow funding, best clinics and schools in the region and stable pay attracted youth to the city. The collapse of the Soviet Union has led to the shutdown of production. During Perestroika, labor veteran Kobzenko was sacked, but was able to re-employ and work until retirement. But after working for over 30 years in hazardous environment, her pension is just $160. We don't get any extra attention. The only thing we get is a free coffin and nothing more. I used to play at this playground. This is the home where I was born and spent my childhood. Third entrance, third floor. Zhanatas native Yelena Shumilova recalls 90s with horror. After the mass exodus, her family was the only one left in the entire block. When looters ransacked the rest of the apartments, the city administration labeled the building as in emergency condition and evicted Shumilovs. They borrowed money from relatives and paid for an apartment in a block where the city administration still allows residing. The main income of Zhanatas residents comes from looting, and when all apartments were emptied, people started breaking the walls to collect metal fittings. Injuries and even deaths as a result of house collapses or slabs falling from the roof are common. Look, that side of the house already collapsed while there are kids walking around. This is just unacceptable. An average salary in Zhanatas is around $170. People from the plant make a little more, but few employment opportunities, cause widespread nepotism and corruption. Zhanatas has two bazaars representing the center of life in this ghost city, and the prices do not really differ from those in the capital. A loaf of bread costs 27 cents, and the price for a kilo of lamb starts from $8. Traders are considered to be a commercial elite by Zhanatas residents who think that their level of income is unreachable, although traders themselves think otherwise. Nazarbayev should see what's it like in Zhanatas, but he doesn't visit places like these. The authorities must see how people live here. I have 6 children and all of them are unemployed. The current Zhanatas is the extreme example of what can happen to other former industrial towns of Kazakhstan, now single industry cities. In order to resolve their problems, Prime Minister Masimov presented a new project worth $135 million. The Ministry of Economical Development and Trade will even be given special powers to resettle citizens from depressed regions, says Bakhadjan Sagintayev. Within the framework of this major program, which is now on its completion stage, we will test each city to understand its potential. This is not even a question. If city is not promising, resettlement is the answer. It should be noted that the government began to talk about helping single industry cities right after the tragedy in western Kazakhstan, where social explosion forced the leadership of the country to quickly hide uncovered problems. Labor mobility will not develop until there is a full and access housing market. People should feel secure about leaving apartments in Almaty and moving to Arkalyk, because they would be provided with comfortable housing conditions. And when someone comes to a bare field, they indeed are likely to contribute to social strain and trigger off conflicts between residents and non-resident population. In Zhanaozen, we could observe repatriates blamed for underemployment. Zhanaozen in the Mangistau region is on the list of single industry cities that require economic support of the state. Harsh living conditions and high food prices devalue the salaries of all workers. Zhanaozen resident Araskan Kildibayev feeds his calf with cardboard because local farmers are unable to afford barley and bran, while fodder grass doesn't grow in western steppes. One sack of bran costs $7 and fodder grass $8. We get cardboard from the store, but it isn't free either. Depending on the trade, a piece of cardboard costs about $1. The milk is still good, but the cattle should be well fed. In addition to Zhanaozen, the list includes 26 towns in need of aid. Some of them raise doubts of experts. Temirtau, Rudny, Aksu, and Kibastus can hardly be called single industry cities. The board chair of Almaty Development Center, Nurlan Iskakov, believes that settlements with less than 50,000 residents should be first to get the state funding. There was a chemical plant in Alga town. Have anyone been there lately? 4-story building has turned into a 2-story ruin, and now there is a strange manganese-colored lake nearby. This is all what is left from a plant in Alga. Why don't we support it? Isn't it a real single-industry town? Interestingly, former regional center Zhezkazgan also ended up on the list, coupled with upcoming exit from the region of the city forming Kazakhmys and rumors about the upcoming dismissal of its head Vladimir Kim. The future of Zhezkazgan metal workers is in doubt, says political expert Maxim Kaznachev. In a situation like this, single industry cities can potentially contribute to creating depressed regions. Zhanaozen has a high percentage of shift workers, so mass job cuts will inevitably result in growth of social tension, and it will spread to other regions of the country. Concerning the situation with Zhezkazgan, all workers are local, and if city-making enterprise leaves, the town will have no prospects for development, so it's logical for Vladimir Kim to leave his position now and avoid further social responsibility. Once well known in the Soviet Union, Zhardy village is located just 60 kilometers from Zhezkazgan. It was founded in 1942 next to the major deposit of manganese, mineral urgently needed during the war. When perestroika came, the deposit, which gave 80% of all manganese in the USSR, turned out to be useless and village became deserted. This is the only way Vladimir can enter an apartment of his mother, who lives on the 3rd floor, as the front door is closed. The population of Zhardy today is just 2 people, old Vera and Elaman. During winter they live together because it is easier to maintain heat. The 78-year-old Vera moved to Zhardy upon Komsomol Way bill, and today she is ashamed to even mention her current living conditions. Please don't take picture of this. We live in the trash can. Even though back in the day we were awarded medals, but now we live like homeless. Zhanatas resident Anton Umnov is confident that it is not right to live in the past. He is planning to move from his native town and take his mother and grandmother with him. Anton is not sure where will he live, but it is definitely not going to be a ghost town. I've lived here for quite a long time, and I can tell you that this town is hopeless. There is no civilization, and this is not going to change. Those who have some skills, who think of planning future, live this place. I'm not going to stay here. Zhanatas, along with Karatau, Arkalyk, Priozersk and other single-industry towns, is officially labeled a ghost city. The government project excludes these settlements even though there are real people still living there. It seems that the eternal flame of hope has faded away a long time ago here.
Kazakhstan is a country of contrast where the poverty of single-industry town coexists with the glitter of Astana. The pride and beauty of the leader of the nation is not cheap, but the president's administration will pay any money to maintain it. While the ambitious and promising city is already there, President Nazarbayev is still dissatisfied by the lifestyle of its inhabitants, especially those who litter in the dream city. One German journalist compared Astana with an abandoned space station, but people often call it an open-air museum.
Just look how wonderful my city is. It is all embraced by the sunrise with gorgeous palaces and the streets which our ancestors never seen. These are the words from Alimbayeva's poem. Inspired face, expressive intonation and patriotism in each word, the professional etiquette makes the tour guides to do their best when telling children about the capital city. What dollar are you talking about? It is supposed to remind of Kazakhstan's flag. In the glass walls of 12-story buildings one can see the blue sky and the sun. Children, be the patriots of your own country. This building represents the Kazakhstan's national flag. Galina works as a tourist guide for 30 years already. She saw all the transition, including Akmala being renamed Astana, provincial residents becoming the residents of the capital city. Just last year, such unique facilities were opened in Astana, such as National Cardiological Hospital, the high school students' palace with observatory. We're opening it, right? It is unique. It will be one of the benchmark spots of our city, just like many other popular tourist places. This is also one of such benchmark facilities, the Skating Palace Alao, constructed as part of the 7th Asian Games infrastructure. The object includes the 400-meter skating trail and 2 fields, one for hockey, the other for figure skating. The ice is made out of water which goes 3-level filtration, thus making it more safe and pure than drinking water. The ceilings here feature mirrors which help 4,000 lamps reflect twice more light. Without exaggeration, this is the best arena in the world as of today. Anyways, not many can indeed enjoy this beauty, and the facility is mainly empty despite the fact that it can accommodate 8,000 spectators and the weekend entrance fee is as cheap as €1 per hour. Similar situation is around Akorda, Nazarbayev's residential premise. Not many people are seen on the streets and benches in the park except for maybe police officers guarding the palace around the clock. The central downtown is taken care of from morning till night. Dozens of brigades lay the plates, paint the benches and plant the flowers. 20-year-old Aybek came to Astana just a month ago. His modest earning is $400 a month, which young man is quite happy about. He wouldn't earn that much in his native Shymkent city, plus he seems to like and enjoy his job. However, it gets quite boring here on weekends as this gorgeous city may not be as fun for young workers. When I'm in Astana, it feels as I'm in a foreign country, like somewhere in Europe, I don't know. I can't really feel comfortable as home. Maybe it's about skyscrapers? Yes, I suppose so. I suggest you to get out of the bus for a while. The river walk where Galina Beriza brought the children attracts all the cultural elite of the country. The place features a beautiful view of the city, which is called a window from the past to the future. Artist Gauhar Jaksabayeva uses bleak colors in her painting, mostly blue and steel. It is because on the left shore the buildings are mainly of such colors, says the artist. The buildings rising high in the business center reminds more of career growth, the office life, but not home. The rebuilt Astana still needs rendering habitability. The new and cold buildings, as if they hint on virginity, right? We're hesitant, let's say, to approach those buildings and we have no idea what's going on inside there. For young artists and architects, Astana is more like an experimental range as they can gain an experience here while realizing their most extravagant projects and ideas. As seen in practice, the more weird the forms of the constructions are, the higher chances they have to get the authorities' approval. More conservative part of population is quite critical about most of the buildings here. The building, for instance, is nicknamed a mattress, while the two towers of Kazakhstan Railway Company a pin, Samru Kazana building a bucket, and finally the Bayterek a lollipop. It's like a toy city, so many colors and everything is so beautiful. Photo shoots with the skyscrapers on the background is a list of tourists must-do activities. It's like a bad manner not to have such pictures visiting the city. Modern people so used to visual perception, it is important to depict things they never seen before. Galina has been guiding this group for 2 hours. School children seem to be bored already, but they cannot just be distracted as they will then have to do their homeworks about the tour. However, the city administration meetings feature even more interesting facts and details about the city than this tour days. For instance, the budget of Astana equals to the budget of Prague, while the police will now follow the example of New York counterparts after being recently reproached by President Nazarbayev. Administrative penalties, fines and detention for up to 3 days. All people who litter must realize that they are going to be punished. This is when we will have order and we will have no crimes. This is our capital. It will be a city of gardens. The Hazrati Sultan, indeed the largest mosque in Central Asia, will be opened here on July 6. Construction of the Abu Dhabi Plaza, tallest building to be in all Central Asia, is going to be completed by 2014. In 2017, Astana will host the Expo, one of the largest exhibitions. It seems like Nazarbayev is a little irritated by the absence of appreciative audience. We already have a lot of museums which must attract people, if not the world's masterpieces, but at least 1 or 2 paintings of such scale should significantly increase the number of visits. We have solid halls to post art pieces from at least Moscow, if not Louvre or London museums. You can negotiate with Pushkin Museum or Hermitage. In other words, we need to add life to the city to make it more vibrant. As soon as these statements were made, the authorities rushed to fulfill this goal with extra enthusiasm and efforts. A week following the meeting, a joint Kazakh and French artist exhibition entitled Ultra Memory was held in Astana, yet to prove again the few visits. As if the city guests and residents do not want to be part of the cultural life, says Bakhat Kilibayev, a film director. Astana, as it is today, is not going to stay in the memory of all humanity. As yet, it hasn't proven itself in that capacity, but it may in the future. At the moment, it is like a city which was built to accept guests, but guests have not arrived yet. As a frequent visitor, Kilibayev resides in many cities. Sitting in a cozy coffee shop in Almaty, the film director says he trusts the bright future of the Astana's giant architectural ambitions. As it is known, the art is the eternal value, and seemingly President had chosen to refer to it. As money was spent, the city was built. It is time for recognition. There should be more imagination so that it would be interesting to live in here, and our descendants could compliment us saying the city was built for them by the ancestors. Agreed? Good luck.
And finally, a report from the South Kazakhstan region. The confrontation of teachers from Turkestan boarding school and their leadership is getting out of hand. The complaints of teachers over the arbitrariness of the school principal to various state bodies gave no results. Teachers fearing to lose their jobs continue working and now appeal to the public.
Zaurit Zholdubayeva, former head teacher of Turkestan boarding school for children with development disabilities, has been fired 3 times in the last 4 months. A teacher with 20 years of experience as her provocation began more than a year ago after the appointment of a new principal who never got along with Zholdubayeva for one reason or another. First, we were told to collect money for school repair, but I refused. Teachers still raised the money and the dormitory was completely renovated. Salary and teaching load revision took place in September, and I was yet again told to collect money, but I refused again. The rest of the boarding school staff followed the former head teacher and opposed the principal's exaction practices, including for diesel fuel and for repairs. Parents are tricked into signing contracts which says that they have to pay for repairs. The dormitory was repaired with money collected by teachers. When will this stop? We have asked for help with this issue from different authorities. Other details have been revealed as well. For instance, the fact that children of the boarding school have been fed rotten meat and funds allocated for children's clothing have simply disappeared. This video was made by boarding school staff with a mobile phone during lunch and shows children refusing to eat plain pasta. Teachers assure that daily menu for children consists of dishes cooked with groceries that are not fresh, and that affects children's already poor health. Students refuse to eat this food, saying that meals stink and it would be better to go to bed hungry rather than eating rotten meals. Even dogs wouldn't eat this meat, it stinks. They were feeding this meat to children for 20 days. Parents were outraged while kids were getting sick with food poisoning and kept using the bathroom, yet they were still getting fed with it. Meanwhile, Dana Armonova, the boarding school principal, hand waves all of the allegations, saying they are nothing but intrigues of her enviers. Someone wants to frame me. No one speaks good of me because I actually do my job. When I started working, I have managed to get funds for repairs from the local education board. I'd rather put things in order. Children have never seen an aquarium here, but I managed to get it. Nobody gave me money. As for catering, it's not up to me. The food is provided by the company that won a tender of the local education board. We've issued a resolution for the inspection of the facility with the involvement of appropriate controlling bodies. The inspection is currently underway, while financial and economic activities audit has been planned as well. As it turned out, the local education board has received numerous complaints from Turkestan boarding school teachers regarding the poor rations. However, only at the end of the school year, when prosecutor's office joined the inspection, officials of the local education board plan to take serious measures. Over $250,000 is allocated for food in the boarding school annually. This is a little over $4 for every child per day. The leadership of the school is responsible for the quality of the food. There were complaints about poor nutrition, and we have warned the principal. Now it is time to take some strict measures. Around $7,000 were allocated from the regional budget for the repairs of each school in Shymkent, yet the teachers were still asked to raise the money. The corruption in the education system has become almost a common phenomenon. Exactions from among parents and teachers are practiced in most schools. According to Sagira Nurbekova, the leader of the Independent Teachers Union of South Kazakhstan region, the incident in Turkestan boarding school where ordinary teachers raise against the illegal actions of the leadership is rather an exception. Usually victims prefer to suffer in total silence. 2 teachers were fired in the school number 36 after they started complaining. Later, we reinstated them through court actions. The principal of school number 52 has been displaced for beating a teacher. The system is highly corrupted. We see everything that is happening in society. We see where injustice takes place. But somehow the government doesn't see it. We stand for justice. As a result, they beat and kill us. A month ago, unknown individuals assaulted Zhirkanbek Seydbayev, leaving him with a skull fracture. The journalist links the attack to his professional activity. He has been writing about corrupted education system of the South Kazakhstan region for 12 years. He believes the local education board is at the top of the financial fraud chain. All schools must operate under ministries. Look inside schools and the whole education system and you will see corruption, persecution and extremely poor quality of education. The local authorities, including the chief of local education board and school directors, are the ones to blame. According to Jatkanbek Seydbayev, the teachers themselves could fight corruption in schools. However, the overall unemployment rate makes teachers' position, with the average salary of about $550 per month, one of the most coveted. People hang on their jobs and do not initiate conflicts with the leadership. That's why only a few dare to openly speak up when teachers of the South Kazakhstan region were paid their salaries in rotten potatoes and onions. The deputy principal told us to accept it and that there is no alternative. They are intimidating us, saying that if we refuse to accept it, they will downsize our working hours. We were told that some type of a contract has been signed and it was given by local administration. Supposedly we are to address all complaints there. Can't complain really. Yes, they pay us in vegetables and it's a good thing. Why can't we accept it? I, for instance, gladly agreed and took a bag of potatoes and onions. There is all selected vegetables of great quality. Independent Teachers Union seems to be ready to protect teachers' rights, although there is no official case yet, as all complaints received from teachers are anonymous.
You were watching Vlast KZ on KPLUS channel, accents, trends and personalities of the past week. I'm Asylbek Abdulov. Goodbye.